these trails take between 1, 2 and 4 hours to complete. The one I'm on is a 2-hour trail. And still barely feels like the sun's even came up.
Instead we completed the both of us needed more than a friend.
This is everything I hoped that Kimberley would be. And more.
But right next to you now I'm sleeping. No rhyme or reason to laugh. If this is what love is, then it's worth the while. Can't get enough of this. Thought of you as
Well, on my way back, I never did find my freshwater croc, but hopefully maybe, I don't know, on the way back they'll come out and sun themselves. Maybe it was too early. Maybe I'm just making too much noise as I walk around. Got a couple of nice shots of the gorge, a few good shots of the birds, so beautiful spot, definitely recommend it.
right here, my best friend. Thought he'd be someone else, thought he would take me a while. But right next to you now I'm sleeping. No rhyme or reason to laugh. If this is what love is, then it's worth the while. Can't get enough of this. Thought of you as it happened again. I've stayed for too long and I woke up at your place again.
Well, I'm pretty stoked. I finally saw a freshwater croc just behind me on the far bank. I'll pan over there in a second. The crocs have just started coming out of the water about 8 o'clock on the dot, really. So yeah, amazing. I was hoping to get one of those shots where they're coming out of the water, but I was a bit too slow. They're already there by the time I walked back past. But that's right, something for next time. Awesome experience. They're all just sitting there on the bank, mouths open, trying to warm up for the day. And yeah, check out that. You get a chance, make your way to Windjana Gorge and Windjana National Park. It's pretty special. Alright, I'm off to Tunnel Creek next, if there's no crocs to film, of course, by the end of this. And after Tunnel Creek, I'm off to Mount Elizabeth. So we'll have a look through there. So far the Gib River Road, it's been pretty forgiving. The corrugations aren't too bad at all. Much the same as what you find anywhere else on a dirt track, really. I'm down to 25 psi, just to look after the car, look after the track, and everything's going good. I got a little bit of stuff to fix up. My aerial snapped off on my way out of Bully's camp. Just a low hanging tree, asked a bit too much of it. I think I'd hit that same tree 4 or 5 times by that point. So yeah, snapped off the big aerial, the 8.8 decimal. So I'll get that fixed in Nahra or somewhere else. But also with the rattling around, I've been on the road now a week. All the rattling around and 4-wheel driving, one of the bolts on one of my spotlights has just come a little bit loose. No big deal. Nut's still there. It's a nice lock nut, just probably wasn't tight enough. So yeah, I'm going to tighten that up, pack away the last of my gear, have a bit of brekkie, haven't had that yet. Been on the trail since 5 o'clock this morning. And yeah, I'll head off. Should be at Tunnel Creek by lunchtime, I suppose. Catch you later.
Lost again, going back around, dreaming of a time when I get things right. Lost in the shadows of a million stars. Shouldn't they enlighten my near and far? Shouldn't they at all just tell me where you are? Send a prayer if I'm out of luck. Send a little love and I'll make it back. Send me a letter and a bottle of wine, telling me I will be fine. Baby, I'm stuck with a halfway heart. Slip away if I come too far. Pick me up when I'm in pieces. Oh, that halfway heart of mine is a rolling storm. Make me roll right home. Halfway hard, halfway hard. Sing to me if I lose my voice. Said I better route if I lose my course. Count on my company and I will come. Save me when I am falling. Save me when
So Tunnel Creek's one of those must-visit locations on the Gib River Road. It's a limestone tunnel that sort of burrows its way through the Napier Ranges, and over probably millions of years, I don't know how long, the water has carved this tunnel through the range from one side to the other, and you can actually walk through there. It's about 750 metres long, with some large pools and boulders and whatnot that have fallen from the roof over time and have created this amazing atmospheric light zone for photographers and filmmakers. It's got a real, I don't know, it's a cathedral-like atmosphere to the whole place. It's got its own special feeling to it. It's one of the oldest cave systems in Western Australia as well. It's known as the Cave of the Bats because it's got 5 different species of bat inhabiting the cave. I could only see probably 2 different species when I went walking through, but I'll take their word for it, there's a whole bunch more. There's some freshwater crocodiles that live in the cage, but I really don't want you to be put off by those freshwater crocodiles. They have been used to people. There's a lot of people that walk through this cave, and you'll see it in the film. They're used to people. They still stay well clear of people, and chances are you're not even going to see them. So don't let the freshies scare you, because they're basically harmless. Unless you step on them or harass them or chase them or do something stupid yourself, you're probably never even going to see them. So watch where you step, stick to the path where everyone else goes, and you're not going to have any dramas with the freshies that are in there. The following story, I need to put out a bit of a warning, because the following story's got the names of some deceased Aboriginal people in it. And out of respect for the culture, I wanted to put that warning out there. Amara is hopefully a name that you've heard about. He's extremely famous up here in the northwest. I grew up learning about his stories, even here in the Pilbara, because he's got a bit of a Pilbara link, I guess, which I'm going to tell you about. But the legend of Amara is both for Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people alike. He's the first person really that I know of, at least, and I could have this wrong, but he's the only person, or the first person I know of, that sort of took up arms against European settlers here in WA, in the northwest, and possibly even Australia. He was basically brought into slavery. He was working on a station where his family lived and forced into slavery from a pretty young age. He ended up making friends with a guy called Richardson, that was one of the station owner's sons, I believe, if I'm getting the story straight in my head. And Richardson eventually grew up to become and join the police force. And Amara, being a skilled horseman and marksman himself, he joined his friend Richardson, and those two became a bit of a team, a bit of a partnership that ended up being quoted by the WA police force as being the most outstanding team in the police force at the time. Aboriginal people back then were spearing stock, both for food and also as an effective form of resistance against the settlers. And Amara and Richardson were ordered to track down his people. Among them, or one of the people, I suppose you could say, one of the people he ended up tracking down was his uncle. And his uncle was a chief of the Bunuba tribe. And I'm sorry if I don't get the pronunciations right of some of these names. It's not deliberate, it's just my Western tongue can't get around the names. But Chief Amara of the Bunuba forced Amara to make a decision, to sort of pick sides, I guess. Do you support your Aboriginal people and your heritage, or be banished from the tribe forever by joining the police force and joining Richardson? But he was also given the ultimatum. If he chooses his people, he had to kill Richardson so that the chief Amara could escape. And that's what he did. He chose his people, he chose his tribe and his elders, and he shot Richardson dead right there. Later on, Amara and his followers, because he gathered a group of followers at this stage, because he was joining the armed resistance against the colonies. He and his followers attacked a group of white men driving cattle that were being driven to that very heartland of the Bunuba land, where they wanted to set up a new cattle station, basically. And so this group of white men a number of them were killed, and Amara's team sort of stole their weapons and ammunition. And from then on, that was basically the very first time guns were used against European settlers in an organised attack from that point. 2 weeks after Richardson was shot, the police and Amara's band faced each other at the Windjana Gorge, a sacred place in the Bunuba culture. After 8 hours of a standoff, Amara was killed and Nahra was wounded but escaped. For 3 years, Nahra led a guerrilla war against the police and the European settlers. His hit-and-run tactics and his vanishing trips became almost mythical. In one famous incident, a police patrol followed him to his hideout at the entrance to Tunnel Creek in the Napier Range, but Nahra disappeared mysteriously. Aboriginal people believed he was immortal, his body simply a physical manifestation of spirit that resided in the water soak near Tunnel Creek. It was believed that only an Aboriginal person with similar mystical powers could kill him, and police chasing Nahra were also in awe of his ability to cross the rugged ranges with no effect on his bare feet, despite their boots being cut to shreds by the same terrain. Then that's where the Pilbara link to this story comes in. An Aboriginal tracker called Mickey was recruited from the Pilbara to track down Nahra, and he was a remarkable Aboriginal tracker in his own right. His reputation was that he possessed magical powers as well, and he didn't fear Nahra. So Mickey ended up tracking down Nahra and shot him dead after a fairly long gun battle at Tunnel Creek. So that's a little bit of the history around Tunnel Creek, and if you go there's even more details on the story of Nahra and his people and how they rose up and fought against white settlers quite successfully for a fairly long amount of time. And it's worth a read. I got a little bit of the extra information here because my memory is not so good from the school days, from Wikipedia and a bunch of other sources. And it's definitely worth reading. I'll put them down in the links for you. So Tunnel Creek there, even better in person. Incredible, heaps of water, beautiful caverns, light drifting through holes in the roof, incredibly photographic. Definitely worth checking out if you're in the area. The whole system, this whole rock face is pretty special. There's two main sort of caverns that you can sort of take some photos of through there that let light through. You can go for a bit of a swim. The water's pretty cold, but it's there if you want it, especially on a warm day. And there's even some stalagmites and stalactites for those people that are pretty keen in their caving. Lots of little offshoots that go left and right. You could easily get lost in there. You can see why Amara chose this as a hiding spot, that's for sure. So I've come across something that really pisses me off, and it's something that I come across in the Pilbara and the Kimberley and a whole bunch of places around the country where they want to seal roads to open up these areas for more tourists to come here. But they can't even cater for the tourists that we have here now. This is a registered rubbish disposal point, and it is an absolute pigsty. There is rubbish everywhere. I have to bite my tongue. I really want to swear. This is shit. Absolute shit. There's no excuse for it. Don't open the roads up. Don't seal them until you can look after the area that you got. And granted, this is as much a problem with people as it is with governments and councils and whatnot looking after the area, but either way it's a disgrace and it shouldn't happen. A little bit sad. Nothing wrong with the light, didn't fall off. Looks like it was loose for a while, but I couldn't hear it because of the corrugations. Let's just put that up there. That goes there. That goes there. Yeah, it looks like she was loose for quite a while. Looking at all the marks around there. Well, she's been spinning probably at least for half an hour, I'd say. I'm going to get a cable tie, some electrical tape, and I'll tuck that in there so it doesn't go missing on me. All good, at least I didn't lose the light. I'm going to spend 5 minutes now tweaking up, well, double checking all the bolts on the car. I was just cruising through Inglis Gap on the Gibb River Road. There's been a fair bit of corrugations, but nothing too bad. And yesterday when I was in camp, I quickly tweaked up one of the lights that I noticed on the roof that was a bit loose. And I didn't think to check all the others because they generally do a pretty good job. So yeah, but today come across lost one of the lights, and the bolt's quite big, so I don't have a spare that big, so I'm one light down now until I get into Carlberg or Nahra and get a replacement. So a bit disappointing, but you get that in the big jobs.
Keeping busy, always things to do. Our situation's still undecided. None of us knows what we wanna do.
Thanks for watching my video. Hit like if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and if you'd like to help with the creation of these videos, check out my Patreon page from the link above.